Okay guys, in this chapter right here, I'm going to show you how to factor quadratic expressions with greatest common factor. So let's look at number one. Oh, but before we go over the problem, let's go over greatest common factor, okay? So let's just say you have 2x plus 4, and you asked to factor out the greatest common factors, okay? So you see 2 and 4, their greatest common factor is a 2, so you take it out, and then you would kind of like using distributive property but working backward. So 2 times what is going to give us 2x, right? So it has to be an x. 2 times what is going to give us 4? It has to be a 2. So the greatest common factor is right here, which is a 2, okay? So this is the answer. Okay, so let's look at number one. So in these problems right here, you can look at two ways. One way is you can factor out the greatest common factor out from the beginning, or you factor out the end. Either way, it doesn't matter. But factor out the greatest common factor from the beginning, it makes the problems easier. Okay, so let's look at this. You see 2, 8, and 8. They have a 2 in common, so I would take out a 2, factor out a 2. Then in here I would have x squares plus 4x plus 4. See that? So basically we're making a problem originally with larger number into smaller ones, which is easier for us to factor, okay? And here we would do the guess and check method. So you look at the first term, which is x and x, and then you look at the last term, which is 4, positive 4. But when we check, it needs to give us 4x, okay? So our guess could be, since they're all positive, our factor could be 2 and 2 or 4 and 1. But my guess is 2 and 2, okay? So let's test it out. So x times 2 is 2x. X times 2 is 2x. 2x plus 2x is 4x. So you see it matched with the middle terms. We're on the right track. So look straight across to write down your answers, which is x plus 2 times x plus 2. And don't forget to bring the 2 down, the greatest common factor, and that's the answer right there, okay? Now let's move on to number 2. Number 2, if you look at 7, 16, and 9, they don't have any number in common, so we can't factor a number out. But if you look at the variable, we have x cubed, x squared, and x. Notice we have an x in common, okay? One x in common, so we take it out. Then in here we should have 7x squared, because x times x squared is x to the third, plus 16x. X times 16x is 16x squares, plus 9. Okay, so for these problems right here, it didn't make any difference because the number still stays the same, but we factor out the extra x aside. Okay, so let's look at the first term and last term. So 7x squared, which is 7x and x. Notice this is positive and positive. That should give you a hint that all of your factors will be positive answers, no negatives, okay? So for 9, you have two choices. You have 3 at 3, 3 times 3, or a 9 times 1. So by looking at this, my guess is going to be a 9 and a 1. But you have to put a 9 here and a 1 here for it to work. If you flip it the other way, it wouldn't work. So let's test it out. No, I'm sorry. 9 has to go here, and a 1 has to go here. Okay, so let's test it out. 7x times 1 is 7x. X times 9 is 9x. So that's 16x. You see this right here matched with this. So we know we're on the right track. So look straight across to write down your answers, which is 7x plus 9 times x plus 1. And again, don't forget your greatest common factor. Okay, let's move on to number 3. So let's look at the numbers, 6, 39, and 60. So that tells me I have a 3 in common, okay? And then here, the the variables x cubed, x squared, and x. That tells me I have an x in common. Okay, so this time we have a number and a variable in common. So right here I have 2x squares plus 13x plus 20. So all of these factors are positive. All of these right here is positive. That tells me my factor is going to be all positive. So 2x squared is 2x and x. And then for 20, we have several choices. We have 4 and 5. We have 2 and 10. 1 and 20. And that's it, right? So we have to pick one that is going to give us 13x, right? So my guess would be a 4 and a 5. So I put 4 here and 5 here. So let's test it out. 2x times 4 is 8x. And then the other one is x times 5. That's 5x. That gives me 13x. So this match with this. So we're on the right track. Remember, if it doesn't match, you erase it and you guess again, right? So you look straight across to write down your answers, which is 2x plus 5, x plus 4. Bring down the 3x. And that's your answers. Okay, let's look at number 4. Number 4, let's look at the number. We have 10, we have 15, and 25. That tells me I have a 5 in common. And then for the letter, we have a p cubed, p squared, and p. That means we have a p in common. So the greatest common factor is 5p. So here we're going to factor out 5p. So that's going to give us 2p squared minus 3p minus 5. So if you look at here, this is a negative and that's a negative. That tells me my factor is going to be a positive and a negative, okay? So 2p squared is 2p and a p. And then we have a negative 5, which we have two choices. It's either negative 5 times 1 or 5 times negative 1. You take your pick and then start guessing. But I have to say negative 5 and 1 is going to be my guess. Put negative 5 here and 1 here. Let's test it out. 2p times 1 is 2p. P times negative 5 is minus 5p equals to negative 3p. Then we are going to, now that it match, right? Because this match with that. So look straight across to write down your answers, which is 2p minus 5 times p plus 1. And again, don't forget the greatest common factor, 5p. And we are done, okay?